And we're back and ready to go. We've got our next bracket up. Have sent Ground Zero through to face Direwolves, who faced Vertex last bracket round.
Ooh.
And yeah, Direwolves versus Ground Zero should be an interesting one. The other bracket down lower is Cringe Society versus Team Process as well.
Yeah, I guess the one thing to point out against these matches is Direwolves Vertex going 3-1. Cringe Society Mind Freak going all the way to Game 5 with Cringe Society breaking away. So Mind Freak, something that we have to consider is they are a strong contender here. I feel like if they did get a little bit of a nicer bracket, we could potentially see them moving up in the future. And then Team Fenrir, who actually placed pretty highly last week. I think they made it into the semifinals last week, getting beaten 3-0 by Team Process, who, by a little fact as well, Team Process knocked out Forbidden Gaming, who was also a semi-finalist last week. So Team Process is having a monstrous week at the moment.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Team Process, that's Baked Potato, CJM, and Metro, and the sub Laxon. So yeah, CJM particularly, probably the only name I really know well there. I have heard of Metro, I've seen him a little bit, but CJM's probably the name that I've seen come up the most in that team. Going up against Cringe Society, though, that's a big name team.
It is, definitely. I think it's going to be probably, I guess, their first real test. I guess, you know, Team Fenrir have had a lot of success recently, so they have still been one of those teams to keep an eye out for, but Cringe Society just has been that consistency for quite some time. Doesn't matter what kind of roster they've had. They have some very strong names in Drupe, Jules, and of course Deca. So, you know, a very strong team to consider. But the game that we're actually going to focus on is going to be a huge one because Direwolves were our winners last week. They placed first. So this for them is going to be their ticket into holding that #1 spot. If they do fall short, that's going to massively open the door for Ground Zero to swoop in.
Absolutely. Putting a capital point on what I was trying to say there. I should point out, though, that Team Fenrir were actually the team in group stages that took out Renegades. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 3-0. So Fenrir was really on top of things coming into this bracket, and Team Process to go 3-0 against them is a very good sign if they were playing at the same rate they were against Renegades. So now, coming up against Cringe Society, can they do it again?
I just had a quick look at the bracket. It was 3-2 to Fenrir, so they knocked them out in Game 5. So still a hard slog match, but yeah, for them this week, unfortunately, they do not make it past the quarters. But it is going to be a strong match up on the other side of the bracket. The interesting thing for me is going to see what Direwolves bring to the table against Ground Zero. We've already seen Ground Zero be really solid. Obviously, our highlight player is Express. Defensively, he was really strong. I think towards the end there as well, he actually had the most shots on the side for Ground Zero as well. So, you know, he's very well-rounded at the moment. And then you've got Torsos and Aphis, and we talk about the recoveries they had, always keeping themselves relevant in the game. So they're going to be a tough team to go up against compared to Direwolves. But, you know, looking at their team, you know, Misty, Fiber, and of course Zen, there's some big names in that team, and it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely, and Direwolves have done very well historically as well, with Zen and Fiber being a particularly good matchup there. I know Fiber is now, I believe Fiber is now the sub, but Vive coming in there, and that three-man team has always been something that some of the bigger teams have struggled with, in particular. Actually, maybe not as consistent as some of those big teams, but they definitely have been a thorn in the side in the past.
Oh, definitely. They've kept themselves relevant for quite some time. You know, they've always been a name that has stuck around, whether it's been with Direwolves or with Gaming Gamers or any other kind of, I guess, org that they've been represented by. In the past couple of seasons, they have always kept themselves very relevant. The thing was always just trying to find a way to gel, to incorporate both their skill in the gameplay in terms of their mechanics and a solid rotation, so they're not being exploited, you know, every single time that they try and go for a play. So I feel like this roster, especially since Misty has joined in, has really kind of escalated their foundation. They've been able to get to that next level more consistently.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if that consistency carries through. Now, Direwolves versus Ground Zero kickoff coming up in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. As Torsos comes up against Zenulos. Zen wins that kickoff, but goes straight to Amphis. Amphis, good little flip there, will carry that forward as Misty will be able to divert that straight up into the air. Comes off backboard, and the defense has to continue to rally here.
Yeah, Ground Zero already starting strong on this orange side, as we see already some really strong offensive plays, putting some real defensive pressure on the side of Direwolves. They're trying to go for a couple of these early touches, but it's like I said, the recovery from Torsos and Amphis, being able to stay on this ball as often as they do, it's very dangerous moving forward.
Misty misses that second touch coming out of corner there, and Express will gain control. Double commit on Direwolves does manage to clear that ball out, but will not mean that they can continue the attack. Demo there by Express will mean that Zen is out of the play. Torsos to the backboard, tries to read his fiber, clears well. Amphis now back to his own backboard, and will slow down the play just for a moment as he takes control.
This has almost been a bit of an Amphis freestyle and free play at the moment. He's had a lot of time on the ball. We've seen him go back to his backboard twice now to move the ball forward. So a lot of touches here. One thing I want to kind of point out is every time Direwolves right now are getting possession, they seem to be clearing it away as Ground Zero are rotating. So it's a bit rough. They're not really getting any time or space on the ball.
Fiber will send that downfield. Torsos up, we'll put that back, but Amphis actually beaten by Misty there with that small pinch upwards. Fiber will be able to pass that out, but Torsos is available, and Zen will have to take this back, reset into his own corner. Now has control. I've seen Zen do some insane things with the mechanics he has, and it's always a little bit scary to come up against, even when you're in one of these massive teams that are not able to get it past just this time.
And that's the thing that really keeps Direwolves relevant, is the mechanics. They're able to control the ball, get those extra couple of touches where their teams that they're versing aren't expecting them to control or carry the ball the way they do. So if they can utilize that moving forward and start really connecting on some shooting opportunities, this is going to be dangerous.
I think that's always been the thing for them, is this roster combination has always relied on those mechanics, and you're absolutely right, if they can combine some other features with that, they become dangerous every single time. But right now they're being fired on. Amphis takes another shot, blocked away again. The defense is holding, you've got to say, for Direwolves, they're doing fairly well, but it continues the onslaught of attack. Now Misty out again. Fiber finally the controls settling with Direwolves for a moment as they're able to clear out. Fiber gets it past again. Torsos has to take control of this. Well, he does. Dribbles it out and tries to pinch away as Misty reads it again. Now Zen into midfield. Express puts it back to Torsos, and that's actually a shot that has to be defended away once again.
So pressure still building here for Ground Zero. It's a bit of a bump there onto Zen at the last man position, but they couldn't manage to get a shot on field or accurate. So there's a bit of time and space now given to Direwolves to try and reset. And the one thing that is kind of lingering for me is, yes, right now Direwolves Direwolves just have an open net and Misty taking full advantage.
Yeah, I mean, not really indicative of a lot this match so far, I guess, but Misty able to sneak it under that crossbar and does take first goal. I think one of the things that has a big question mark on this match, makes it harder to predict, is the fact that when you compare it to last match, you wouldn't say that Renegades would ever be under that amount of pressure for that long. However, if they were put under that amount of pressure, judging by how last game went, I don't think that they would have lasted that long without conceding a goal either. So, it's just difficult to read the situation.
I was going to make a point earlier about defenses where if they're getting constantly pressured, eventually cracks will form. But it seems like at the moment, the way the Direwolves are playing this is very, very smart. Look at the way Misty played that. A double commit on the bump for Ground Zero to try and move that ball forward. But he's played that very, very smart. Knew exactly how the play was going to unfold, and he was able to adapt quickly. And that's been a massive tell for Direwolves on how they're able to adapt to these really dangerous situations.
Doing fairly well on boost as well there, despite their constant defensive position. Now Amphis, great control, will drop it down, but Fiber's available. Torsos will send it to the backboard, does manage to get the center. Now Express can't quite find the touches. Amphis sends it out to the midfield. Torsos once again into Amphis. Misty gets there first. Zen now. Good clear out. Nobody to chase. He's going to try and follow it himself. But Express centers that, almost delivers it to Fiber, and Amphis has to make a save.
Time desperately running out here for Ground Zero. This could be potentially the first game they've remained scoreless that we've seen on stream, and what a way to do it for the Direwolves. They come out very, very strong here to really stamp their authority about how this series could potentially unfold. We saw Ground Zero coming very, very strong out of the gate, very, very offensive, but look at those saves, 9 saves to 4, really a credit to Direwolves' defense.
Yeah, I mean, what happened that game? By all accounts, you would assume that this is a game that Ground Zero came out of on top. They had the vast majority of the possession. They had the vast majority of the shots. They had the vast majority of attacking half aggression, and yet Direwolves come out with just that one goal that they were able to just hold on until something opened up for them, and here they are, a one-up in this series.
I think one thing that's worked for Direwolves is they're adapting to the pressure really effectively, because they're never committing too much into their attacking play. They're always making sure that if a demo comes through, can they rotate, can they support very efficiently? And the answer is yes. We're seeing Ground Zero, they got 5 demos compared to 0. So they are definitely being aggressive, Ground Zero, but they're not capitalizing on that aggression because of the way Direwolves are rotating.
Yeah, Fiber. Set up all bumped by Torsos. Misty will send that downfield, sent back out. Torsos is going to try grab this again, but Amphis gets under it a second time. Comes off high, and Fiber should be able to take this onto his own bonnet. A demo coming out there for Misty. 2 leaves Torsos on his own to carry this high. Looking for the play, actually sends it off the ground back to himself, but not before a touch comes out to stop the possession of Ground Zero.
Not a lot of boost for Torsos to work with, but he is able to get some now and control the ball. He gets a nice pinch there. A double demo moving forward. So this is going to be Torsos now trying to get the angle, but luckily the support again for Direwolves comes through. There was no open net for Ground Zero to work with.
Amphis and Express both in that corner, does center, but nobody could come up for the risk that they would have presented there. Amphis, great little touch off ceiling. Torsos takes the shot and Misty gets the save. Express, once again, trying to get the 50 out there, does manage to make its way to Torsos. Torsos maintains control, but possibly not where he wants it to be now, as he has to force it back to his own corner.
Great patience there by Misty. He's gone for a bit of a delayed start to that attack because he knew that there shouldn't be a lot of boost for them to work with. And now Zen has so much time and space, has the flip reset, but Amphis is getting those extra touches to get the ball clear. And now Ground Zero with possession. Torsos going to try and make something work. Doesn't have a flip to work with, so he'll give the ball possession to Fiber, and Direwolves, just taking full advantage moving forward.
Express gets a nice touch on that one. Amphis. Fiber will actually cancel it out. Might be the first time that I've seen Direwolves actually be able to shut down an attack before it even starts at all from Ground Zero at this point. But now, great passing play out to Fiber. He looks for the second touch. What a play! Straight in to the attacker and just nails it off the backboard.
Fireworks, the perfect goal explosion there for that play, because the way he was able to get that flip reset and adjust so quickly was beautiful to watch. What a first goal in Game 2.
Doing exactly what we talked about. It wasn't just the mechanics coming out there, it was the team play. That pass was brilliant, and it's exactly what is needed out of Direwolves to make goals like that happen, and to come out on top against a team as dominant as Ground Zero.
Yeah, Ground Zero showing dominance in the last series, but they haven't seemed to get a foothold in this match. They have been scoreless this entire series of about 8 minutes, which is very, very unheard of for them, especially when you're thinking about Amphis and how strong he has mechanically to set up plays. They just haven't had the time and space to work with anything.
Express trying to go for his own little backboard play there as Amphis Gets sent up near the ceiling. Does manage to get this down into the corner, but can't read Zen as he sends it low below him. Fiber now at midfield. Express with touch, gets the control himself. Looking to get this past Misty. The slow play might be the right choice as Xanthus comes in, but Zen is on that fast. And now might be able to turn something around here, not if he gets demoed away like that.
I like the way that Dire Wolves are being a little bit more patient with their challenges. They notice that there's a bit of a misread with the rotation, like there might have been a demo like we saw with Zen, and they're adjusting really well to delay and allow their teammate to get back into the game before they pressure.
Now, great center. Torsos just misses the shot, but Express can make it work. Misty will make the miracle save. Cannot believe that three-man play wasn't able to sink, but the defense holds up yet again for Direwolves.
This is a massive turning point for them. That was a really strong defensive save there from Misty, just to keep the ball away from, I believe it was Express who was taking that shot. What a turnaround. This is looking desperate for Ground Zero to get their first goal in this series.
Torsos get under that. Fiber backflips into an Express, will send that center and sent well downfield. Xanthus manages to get that up high, but Misty's available. But all team members on Ground Zero back and available for defense right now.
Fiber taking control on the ball, actually decides to pop it a little bit faster. Yes, the challenge from Express as well, and they're causing a little bit of an overcommit here by Ground Zero. It could work out, but a narrow touch on the nose there from Direwolves keeps that ball at bay. Misty doing everything possible. Fiber taking over, keeping that ball away from Ground Zero at the moment. They cannot do any wrong defensively here so far.
So many unbelievable shots that would have been sunk against just about any other team, and yet Direwolves is holding out so well right now. Zen actually ends up passing that up into Express. Unfortunately, comes off ceiling, possibly the setup they needed, and yet again the defense comes out of Fiber.
It's so crazy to see how strong Ground Zero are putting together these attacking plays against, you know, a lesser team. They would execute them flawlessly, but the saves, again, just coming through absolutely clutch. This time, Fiber coming through with 3 saves, as well as Misty just doing everything at both ends of the field. And it's really looking solid for Direwolves, obviously moving 2 games clear from Ground Zero right now, puts them in match point contention. And this is going to be interesting, because if they 3-0 here, they are solidifying themselves as a very strong contender, and the winners possibly 2 weeks in a row.
I mean, you would normally be right in saying Direwolves was a lower team, but looking at this, I mean, first game they had almost no possession, still managed to just scrape out a win. That game, they had very good possession and used it incredibly well. They've now just completely zoned out Ground Zero from getting a single goal 2 games in a row, and calling Direwolves a lower team at this point, I don't even know if you can anymore. This is such a good way to come into week 2.
Exactly, especially after the break. This is them getting a solid foundation moving forward, and you know, teams will start having to question, you know, what makes them so different? Why are they so adaptable to every situation? And then they're going to look at the mechanics. They're going to look at how Zen is able to control the ball, how Fiber is able to control the ball, and how well-rounded Misty fits into this equation, and how they're performing at this level.
You mentioned Misty coming in strong on this team and really taking them to another level, and I'm seeing exactly what you mean now, because it's such a different looking team out of this roster. And now tries to get it past Express. Express actually managing to continues to 50-50 3 players and brings it center. Unfortunately, no goal out of it, but a lot of work there.
There was a lot of work by Express. Did have a lot of boosts to work with, but just remain on that ball, try to build that pressure for Ground Zero to eventually get their first goal. Again, they are scoreless after 10 minutes, 11 minutes now of a gameplay, something that we don't normally see, considering they were plus 10 goals in the last series.
2 games up to Direwolves now as well. Leaves Ground Zero in a dangerous position. Fiber now clearing out well, follows that. The 50 goes well for Express though. Zen Puts that away. Amphis, a shot, but it's just too direct, too centered, and the defense has no issues getting that. That's an open net, has to be a goal. Express, you cannot miss that in this position.
That was such a tough angle, and he didn't have a huge amount of boost to work with. The pressure obviously building now for Ground Zero to get that first goal on the board, and sometimes the easier shots become the world's hardest shots when there's that pressure that is building for your team to execute.
Now Zen's going to send this down to Amphis. Torsos and Express both up. They're definitely getting desperate for these goals. It's making them overcommit on these things, and that double doesn't cost them anything right now, but it definitely means that they can't take possibly the setup that might have been available to them before that happened.
Ball now in favor of Express, gets a nice pinch, but Fiber, again, good positioning on the backboard, just to keep that pressure. Zen, really strong, well done to try and get to that. And this is the thing, they're using their backboard very effectively in these attacking plays, but also Direwolves using it defensively, just keeping the ball away from that goal line.
Misty gets it out to the corner. Zen under it. Torsos will follow. Nice touch to get that over Zen. However, they need more than that as it crosses the net. Torsos, great little touch there actually to keep it in that corner, if that's what he was aiming for, but possession does go to Direwolves. Now, looking like Fiber might be able to set something up here. Misty, though, will send that out as Express goes up. Big miss from Express, leaves Torsos in a bad spot as Amphis comes in and just makes sure nothing can go wrong out of that one.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate there for Express to get that miss. It's a very, very hard touch to get, and it does buy your team a lot of time, but when you miss it, it puts your defenders in a very horrible position, and we saw that with Torsos just kind of having to adjust really quickly to that play, and you know, this is where Direwolves take advantage of that adaptability, and they keep that pressure going.
Torsos now, send it downfield. Amphis, good opportunity. Finally, will they score something? It takes yet another touch as Express comes in at the last moment. They finally on the scoreboard in the third game. Man, it took some work.
It took a lot of work for them to get to that point. And if you think about it, it came off a very, very minor mistake from Misty, who is normally very, very solid on that backboard, for them to be able to get their first goal. So, you know, it's one of those things where I feel like they have to rely on mistakes here at Ground Zero to get their goals.
Express sends it out. Fiber just positioned well, takes his time. Good touch by Zen, gets cancelled out though as Torsos comes downfield. That's an open net and an opportunity now. 2 goals finally for Ground Zero. Looking like they might be able to take this one. 1 minute in it. There's only been 1 goal each game so far, so if we're looking at the trend here, doesn't look like Direwolves would be able to come back, but you know what? Direwolves have surprised us 2 matches in a row, and I don't doubt they could do it again.
I don't doubt that as well, but again, we're looking at Ground Zero relying on mistakes. Just Fiber having a bit of a hesitation, a bit of indecision on that last play, but Zen, no indecision, no hesitation on that play. Just a very nice pass from Fiber. Great second touch there from Zen to put it into that corner. Just this is what is going to be interesting for Direwolves, because they're able to pull these mechanical plays out very, very efficiently.
Yeah, just a little bit of a misread on that bounce from Amphis will cost them that goal as well, but still only 46 seconds left. It's going to be a tough one for Direwolves to bring this into a third win. However, they are in position to do so. It's a great pass up to Xenios. That's a great shot. Comes off the crossbar. Fiber, opportunity still. Fiber trying to get this out. Misty goes in at the same time. They end up having to pull out of this attack. And now it gets cleared out by Ground Zero again.
Yeah, it's a bit hard there for Fiber. He wanted to go for the extra touch. The call from Misty came through for him to not go for that. But great capitalization there of some extra pressure. Amphis getting that touch there, seeing that Zen's going to go for a touch, and just being patient for the shot. Ground Zero now starting to walk away with some goals here.
Yeah, patience is the word I was going to discuss as well. They're just, after grabbing that boost, knew the ball was going to come somewhere in his direction, and just took his time. Ended up using that positioning very, very well, and now looking like Ground Zero will take 1 game back in this series. 4 seconds left on the board, and a goal does end up going in for Direwolves. They're not going to go down by more than 1 point. They know that, but with 4 seconds left, that's a tough kickoff goal.
I mean, it's a very tough kickoff goal, but if this ball goes up, then anything is possible. These players are very, very good at keeping the ball up when they need to. So it's going to be ground zero forcing it down. Unfortunately, by Misty, he does touch it down, so the ball cannot be continued in play, and ground zero will walk away with their first victory. But they're not out of the woods yet. They need a reverse sweep here to get themselves to that next round. And against Direwolves, you know, it's going to be a hard task because they came out strong and they did manage to get the 2 first series points.
Yeah, there's good low-scoring games and there's bad low-scoring games. And so far this series has been relatively low-scoring, but it's been anything but bad. This has been some unbelievably exciting stuff, and finally these scores open up this game. We've got a 3-2 on the board. Ground Zero actually coming out on top for the first time at least, and for them. And yeah, they definitely opened up the game in terms of excitement as well, and just seeing all of the stuff these players have available to them is unbelievable. 11 shots out of Amphis again. Yeah,
Amphis is just being an absolute demon when it comes to shots. He is very, very creative when it comes to his plays, so it allows him to get those extra shots on net. But it's the same being said for Fiber and Zen and Misty, apparently, who gets an absolute huge dunk on this first play. You see him going up, he gets a dunk here on Torsos, adjusts so quickly to get that redirect off the waterfall. Incredible first play.
Yeah, I mean, you see these kind of team matchups in pro tournaments all the time where it just ends up being a little bit of a game play style thing that makes the matchup so interesting, and I think that's what's happening here as well. You talked about the fact that all 3 of Direwolves' players are now shooting consistently well, whereas Ground Zero definitely seems a little bit more roll-locked, maybe a little bit more of a traditional team setup, but not going bad for them so far, but definitely is maybe a weakness against the play style of Direwolves as well.
It could potentially be, but I feel like now that they've kind of settled into their play style, they've had some extra time together, they've played a fair few tournaments together, they're going to be more solid and more well-rounded, as is Ground Zero. They've had some time now to adjust to everyone's play style and are starting to put together some really strong attacks.
The slippery set coming out of Express, they're almost earning them something, but nobody able to read that, including his teammates at this point. Great pass to Torsos. Can he spike it down? Not before Misty gets there. Zen will send it to the corner, but Torsos is already waiting there. Gets a pass one. Great pass out. Amphis tries to go up early, but not early enough. As it comes down, nearly a shot, and it'll go high.
I don't want to say that Torsos blocked that ball, but it did look to redirect. There could have been an opportunity for a goal for Ground Zero, but just not fortunate enough at this point. So they do remain down in this game number 4, but they seem to be coming up with some more creative attacks, and it's almost working out, that one hitting the post and popping out, but it's looking good so far.
Absolutely right on the creativity front. I think that's definitely been what brought them out last game at the very least. But now, a little bit of midfield play. This is definitely feeling a little bit more even once again than last game, where one side or the other throughout that game seemed to have a little bit more of the advantage. Now, Torsos on that backboard again, trying to defend. A little bit of a misplay there. We'll set this up. That's going to be a free goal.
It is going to be a free goal. Misty taking a lot of time and space there after he managed to get this past Torsos. His Amphis creeping up on that boost. Probably didn't have a lot of boost to work with, which is why he was sitting in that corner, just getting a little bit positionally outplayed there and allowing Misty to get a second goal.
Goes the kickoff as Fiber goes up. He can't make it to the ball, and Amphis will actually be able to take the first shot. Express now puts it up the wall. Good choice. Tries to actually get a bump through it as well. There's the shot from Torsos. Just threads the needle and gets that right-hand corner of the goal. Good angle there to make it work.
Yeah, good positioning as well. Misty didn't really have a lot of options with that play. Probably didn't have a huge amount of boost to carry it forward, so had to try and take possession. But the timing of the fall just not working out. He wasn't able to get to the 50, and Torsos slipping in for a goal.
Ground Zero still down by 1 at this point. Now half the game gone. They need to work hard for this second one, especially if Direwolves can bring back that defense that we saw in the first 2 games. Zen, very dangerous. Express makes the challenge correctly and does 50 it away. Now still on defense, though. They may be able to clear out. Finally gets it past Zen, as now possibly a chance for Ground Zero to even this up. Good passing out defensively to Fiber there for that clear, but not quite enough yet. Express should be on this. Touches up very high. Should go for it himself off the ceiling. Now a shot from Amphis, but it's too slow for Fiber not to stop that one.
Fiber now getting through the defensive line, or attacking line, I should say, of Ground Zero. There's some extra pressure building up by Express. Torsos. Oh, beautiful angle. You have to trust anybody to get that angle. You would trust Torsos. Express doing a huge amount of work to clear the field, but nice execution all around.
Yeah, beautiful little spike from Torsos. Played out to perfection that play, and Ground Zero even this with one of the better goals they've had this series. Now Amphis looking to do it again. Can't get it past Misty. The attack is on for Ground Zero though, and they look to go up in this game and even the series if they can win this match as well. Now Misty will... No, he won't take control as Torsos comes flying in for that one.
Again, we have to remind everybody that right now Direwolves are on match point, so if they do manage to get this next goal and take this next game, they will be progressing through to the grand finals. But for Ground Zero, they need to win the next two just to progress through. So much extra pressure for Ground Zero to perform, and that sometimes can weigh in on how they play. But so far, it doesn't seem to hinder them, as Express, beautiful touch infill to Amphis, who was there ready and waiting, but could not execute on the shot.
That's a shot out to defense with Misty. Just happens to be in the perfect position. Torsos, exactly the same situation there. Perfect position, manages to make that save work, and was a very dangerous position there. Direwolves' pressure is so threatening every time it comes out. That's a shot downfield. Torsos will send that up. Gets the second touch, but it'll come off that backboard to Zenulos. Now, Fiber can't quite find the touch, and Torsos should be able to get this past Zen. That was going to pass Misty at the very least, as he comes back to that backboard of Ground Zero again.
Torsos is looking to try and aggro this as much as possible. He's turning for everything. He's trying to keep the ball away from Direwolves, because they know if time and space is given to him, it could be dangerous. But do we see an overtime here, or do we see a 0-second goal to finish it off? Amphis with the touch, nearly getting it. There is a save by Misty. The ball is still up. Torsos getting it infield. Amphis takes a touch. Zen still has the save though. Misty puts the ball up. Express is going to try and kill this and move it to overtime. And we do have an absolute insanely high pressure overtime. Do we see Direwolves move forward, or do we go to game 5?
The shot straight off the bat. Express has the boost to get there though. Sends it back again. I have to say that with those last final touches before we hit overtime, then I was almost certain that somebody was going to get that goal before we hit 0, but didn't happen. Now opportunities though for Ground Zero as Fiber comes back just in time. Pressure is on for both of these teams. Now Direwolves can move forward to the grand final if they get one more goal out of this, but they're under pressure. Express sends that off. Now another clear out to the corner again. So many shots coming out from Ground Zero. It takes so much work to get past this Direwolves defense.
Exactly. The work they're putting in at the moment is absolutely exponential. They're trying to break this Direwolves defense, but they're just not having any luck. And this is where it gets a bit hard, because they're putting that pressure in and they need to try and make something out of it. Right now, it's going to be Direwolves actually going for the extra pressure. Fiber taking a touch up. Zen's going to challenge this from the side. He actually pulls out of the challenge because Misty might have pulled for it, but now some extra pressure starting to mount. Ball neutral in the 50. We see Amphis taking an extra touch there, but he might just give away possession. No, he manages to get back to it, manages to pick up the boost as well. And this could be Ground Zero taking possession.
Amphis, great pass down to Torsos. Torsos will send it back to that backboard again. Gets another center. Amphis could be available. Misty looking like maybe he doesn't have a lot of boost there. As it gets centered again, Fiber will backflip that back out to Zenulos. Demo comes out on Torsos, and Amphis is forced to take it himself, but he does well with it, just keeping this pressure on as Express gets that back to Misty again.
We can start to see the desperation in the way these teams are playing. They're flying at the ball as desperately as possible, trying to create some little difference in their play, trying to keep the possession away from their opponent, because they know, both these teams, that if they give away possession, that an attack will be forthcoming. And we see that with Torsos collecting it off the roof, almost catches the dribble as well. And this is a mistake coming through. No, again, Dyer will somehow walk away unscathed.
You see Misty jerk forward there, looked like he'd brought himself out of position, but just barely enough of a touch to make sure there's no goal coming out there. Demo's coming out now as well. Both teams just trying to open up these goals and make something work. It doesn't have to be a good goal, it just has to be any goal, but nothing is coming out yet. Torsos downfield, Fiber off the backboard, just barely. Misty again, just crossing field over and over again now.
This is going to come down to which team is able to boost starve the other more efficiently. I feel like boost is going to be the biggest factor in the way these teams execute, because we know that with not a lot of boost, that both these teams might be able to fall apart. Although Torsos, beautiful plays here, trying to put the extra pressure on, but Misty again very strong on that backboard.
Oh, shot as Express has to make the save. Xenios now sending back to the backboard again. Express gonna get under this, has to try and get it past Misty. It'll actually pinch out to Amphis. No big deals yet, but Fiber actually sets it up well, and I thought Torsos would get to that faster than he did. He does eventually deal with it though, and so much pressure coming out of Direwolves. We've seen it from both teams just about equally this game. I said it was looking like the closest one so far, and good lord is it.
Oh, my nerves are on their end. You can tell that this game is possibly going to end off a huge mistake from either team, and I honestly am at the edge of my seat now watching. We are nearly at 4 minutes of overtime play, which is nearly an extra game played at this point in time, which is a huge amount of gameplay all in one sitting for these players, but they are experts. They know exactly how to work, and the mistake came through. What a touch.
Yeah. Amphis just making good use of Misty. Thought he was going to go up that corner. Just takes it low. The surprise element of that brings them the goal, and Ground Zero take the game, sorry. Going forward to game 5 now in the series. They do force it forward because Direwolves had the match point there. They don't anymore, and Direwolves do not want to let go of this. They
definitely don't. They've had 2 match points here. Now they're moving to equal standing. They go 2-2. They've let their lead slip away in the series, and this is where the pressure comes in. This is where doubt comes in, because they would have been saying to themselves, we've had the opportunity to close this out. What is happening? And it's Ground Zero adapt, and we talked about it in the previous series about how efficiently Ground Zero was able to adapt, and we're now seeing that come tenfold.
Seeing the stat board light up a little bit more evenly now. Ground Zero actually favoured by those stats. Amphis up to 16 goals now, and now leading in assists at 3 as well. Definitely looking like an interesting series, even just by numbers alone. Misty with 13 saves, but Fiber with 11 as well, 28 total for Direwolves. They have just had some unbelievable defense throughout the entire series, but broke just at the last second, and Ground Zero has been able to bring it to this game 5. Should be very, very interesting game 5.
It is definitely going to be an interesting game 5. We've seen Ground Zero be hyper aggressive. We've seen Direwolves be hyper defensive, and no 2 ways are definitely worse than the other, but we definitely need to see some more aggression coming from Direwolves. We need to see them have a few extra shots and try and put that pressure back onto Ground Zero like they've been pressured all series.
I suppose this is what you expect out of a player who's been to RLC as Torsos, coming in here with the experience to know how to deal with pressure, and that could bring them a win here if they can just handle the pressure, but better than Direwolves do as well. Being in this game 5 situation, it can get under your skin.
It definitely can. It can definitely add those extra layers of doubt, or possibly, that, finesse when it comes to some of these shots. But, these players have probably scribbed against each other quite regularly, and they do know exactly how to play. And, oh no, the read. Oh
Torsos has to turn on this. There is a shot a second time, but Fiber will send that high. Xenios takes that for a moment. Mysticals finally clears out. Amphis now on this ball. Will get to Torsos downfield, but nobody to follow this possibly. Fiber will send this out to the corner and get a second touch as well. Still looking to clear this, but with no boost. Can't send it too far. Torsos takes that. Actually, Fiber did very well there.
He did very well, especially with that little wall wave dash there, trying to give himself a little bit of extra momentum to catch that ball that was starting to slip away. It's that creativity that's kept Direwolves relevant.
Amphis coming in now. The aggression out of Amphis certainly coming through as one of the biggest contributing factors to Ground Zero, bringing this all the way to Game 5 as well. Torsos downfield. Misty. Good touch now to center, but nobody to actually pass this to. Tries to take it himself and almost does so, but just not quite enough.
If he had a lick of boost there, he could have slowed down his momentum to create that separation away from the wall to get that double touch. Because that's what happens, is he ran out of boost and he just flew at the ball as it bounced, and unfortunately couldn't quite get the angle.
Amphis, good clear out to Torsos. Looking to set up a play here. Torsos going for it a second time. Great center. Read very well by Misty, but Express will nail that in the back of goal and take the first goal on this final match between these guys.
And Ground Zero now starting to get some momentum their way. They got the last 2 games under their belt, and they're looking to take out this 3rd game. It's going to be an absolute blockbuster of a match to find out who will progress through to our grand final.
Amphis. Gonna follow this through Xenios. Downfield Fiber will take that. Misty ends up going back to ground. Does possibly screw up their rotation just enough that they can't pull off what they were going for there. Torsos to the backboard. Fiber will get that in time. Passes to Misty on the backboard as well. Now, good setups by Ground Zero in general, but the defense holds up for Direwolves as consistently as it has in the series.
Oh, nice touch there by Fiber. Broke the defense a little bit, but Torsos, again, reading the play well, is able to adapt and challenge the ball quickly and give Ground Zero a little bit of time and space to return the favor. Now Fiber catching up to Mysticals. It puts a brilliant shot in that upper corner, but Torsos, again, there and waiting. Infield pass, nearly connected to by Fiber, but they do manage to take a little bit of possession here. Direwolves, they still are able to keep this ball moving forward after having a few chances.
I need a little attention to the save that Torsos just made. Actually drove up post to be able to flip at that ball. He read the play unbelievably well, but it's still not enough to keep them out of danger at the moment. They want to hold on to this 1-goal lead as long as they can, and hopefully push up on that lead as well if they can, but they have been under the gun for basically since they scored that last goal. They've been able to clear out and even get on the attacking side a few times, but it's just not lasted very long.
It hasn't, and this is the way Direwolves are showing their desperation. They're keeping this attacking pressure because they know that as soon as that pressure lets go, that Ground Zero are going to be on the return that much quicker. So it's up to Direwolves now just to try and be on the ball as much as possible, force out those mistakes from Ground Zero and exploit them as much as possible.
And of course, being down by 1 now as well, they want to keep the aggression on as long as possible, increase their shots like Misty just did there, and open up that goal, but it's just nothing breaking on either side at the moment. That 1 goal is all that's in it.
A bit of an opportunity there. Fiber just creeping that little bit too far forward to get the pass there by Fiber, but again, we're pointing it out, Direwolves managing to maintain a lot of pressure moving forward. Even though they're starting to lose a little bit of steam, they're still locking this ball into that orange half.
Good challenge by Xenios. Doesn't go particularly well in the long run though. Torsos now up wall as Express fakes a challenge. Misty sends it in. Amphis takes control. Gets it off the ceiling, looking to try and maybe even flip reset on that, but he runs out of boost too early. Torsos gets that off that back wall. 0 seconds. It looks like this would be Ground Zero's game, and it's the only one they've been able to take on a clean sweep. It will be... Oh my goodness, how is this still up? There we go. Ground Zero take the game and take the series. It is probably the more experienced upper-ranking team here that takes it, but man, they were driven to try harder than I think I've ever seen Ground Zero have to try against a team in the RLO series by this Direwolves side. They have been unbelievable.
They have been unbelievable, and this is the first game that we actually saw Ground Zero really been tested on the defensive side. They had a huge amount of shots come their way. I think quick maths is 11 shots coming towards them, and they did not concede a goal at all, which shows that they can execute on both sides of the field. They can create those creative offensive plays, but they can also total up and be super defensive when needed, and they are able to hold this lead and progress through to the grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw different styles of play out of both teams throughout that, both teams forcing the other to change the way they played throughout that series consistently. We saw, like you said, hyper-aggression and hyper-defensive-ness pretty equally across that, but not only did we see that, we saw it out of both teams at different times, and Direwolves pushed so hard to make Ground Zero sweat like that, and have done very, very well. Some unbelievable stats across that, and yeah, just awesome stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough fought match. We've seen two matches today that could be grand final worthy that were a little bit premature. We saw one in the obviously the quarterfinals between Ground Zero and Renegades, and then now again against Direwolves and Ground Zero again, and we're going to see them a third time as well, as it's almost been a progression journey for Ground Zero, who are going up against Team Process, who 3-0'd Cringe Society. What a massive shock. Obviously, us as casters have not seen the bracket up until this point, and this is a massive win here for Team Process, getting that 3-0 against a very strong team in Cringe Society.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I mean, we mentioned that Process were able to take down Renegades in the group stages. Then they 3-0'd Fenrir, maybe not quite as hard a prospect as taking down somebody like Cringe Society for sure. 3-0. What a massive win for them, and that really puts them up in my rankings. Who knows? Maybe they can cause the upset and take down Ground Zero. But for now, Ground Zero looking like they are still the winter champs right now, bringing it into the finals. We will see you again for the grand finals in just a minute. We'll catch you just momentarily.